Good day everyone, we're Group 10 and we're going to present to you the topic the two-tier bargaining model revisited, theory and evidence from China's natural resource investment in Africa. In the recent years, foreign direct investment in the natural resource industries by Chinese firms in Africa has increased rapidly. The strategic importance of the natural resource sector to host country government produced considerable bargaining over the entry and operating terms with attendant political risk. Bargain models. The traditional bargaining model that focuses on one-tier bargaining is better described as the one between MNEs and host country's government. The two tiers of bargaining are referred to the between home and the host country governments and between MNEs and host country governments. Ramamurthy, the author who proposed the two-tier model, observed that home country governments of developed country MNEs often negotiate with host country governments in developing countries. Such first-tier governmental level bargaining helps remove entry barriers for MNEs and increase their bargaining power during their second-tier individual level negotiation with host country governments. The following slide shows the China strategy two-tier bargain model. Chinese natural resource companies have experienced rapid growth in that region despite the high political risk they have. This has led China's firms to substantial participation in the African market, winning over the United States, as you can see in this chart on your right, where we can compare the import and export of China versus the United States in the decade of from 1995 to 2015. In addition, the Chinese government offers a package with loans that support multiple purpose development projects in various sectors with a focus on infrastructure. And this is very particular of Chinese strategy, since it is often true that Chinese foreign investment in resource industries occurs in countries with volatile political conditions. The study may contribute to an understanding of how Chinese companies are able to enter countries with high level of political risk. In these slides, we can see the participation of the Chinese firm in the whole Africa. We estimate that there are more than 10,000 Chinese firms operating in Africa. Using the case of Tanzania, we will describe how the Chinese government and its firms engage in a very particular bargain model, different from the traditional model known as the one-tier model. The home country government's activities are focused on developing bilateral or multilateral investment agreements with host country that remove entry barriers and set macro rules for its home country's MNEs. However, prior studies suggest that Chinese government activities in natural resource-rich developing nations such as those in Africa go beyond establishing investment agreements. They also include, for example, the provision of low interest in loans to support infrastructure development in areas in which Western governments typically avoid investing. In the reading, we can see how they take a sample of some firms with FDI that they have made in Tanzania. In Tanzania, there is a mixed participation between SOEs, state-owned enterprises, and private MNEs. The core sample taken for the interviewers consisted of 3 state-owned and 2 private Chinese firms and 4 Western mining MNEs from Canada, Australia, and United Kingdom. As you can see in the column chart on your right, we can compare the amount of FDI of each firm, and in the pie chart, we can see how Chinese firms represent 36.91% of the FDI in Tanzania. In numbers, represent 36.9 billion US dollars against the 29.32 billion dollars from the Western firms. Here we can see the China's firm investment in Tanzania. Tanzania was the 11th largest recipient country of Chinese FDI in 2010 among 49 African countries that had investments from China. China's FDI flows to Tanzania have increased significantly since 2000. According to the data provided by the Tanzania Investment Center, the average annual growth rate was 88% from 1999 to 2005. Tanzania is an attractive investment destination for Chinese mining companies, a place rich in natural resources, In the next slide, we see the research on firms in Tanzania using the two-tier bargain model. In order to address the premises initially raised about the two-tier model used by China and proposed by Ramamurthy, the following questions were established that sought to be able to address with the Chinese firm the power to conclude the assumptions raised. For the question 1, we have: has the home country government engaged in the bargaining relationship building with the Tanzanian government, and if it's so, how? How has an MNE benefit from the bargain and the relationship building between home and host country government? The answer we found is that usually the Chinese government negotiates with the Tanzanian government and other African governments to obtain licenses to extract resources from China's multinational companies. This is actually a Chinese government policy introduced in 2004 with the aim of strengthening the cooperation with African countries and countries in Asia, Middle East, and South America. Through this policy, the MNEs are beneficiated by having easy access to the host countries, and through the negotiation of the Chinese government, the entry barriers for Chinese firms are eliminated and formal negotiations channels are facilitated for the firms. Our question number 2 establishes: has a MNE been involved in bargaining with the host country government in order to secure investment deals? And if it is so, how? In what ways has an MNE helped the Tanzanian government or local communities achieve their goals? We have that MNEs definitely have a stable relationship with the host country for their business to run smoothly in places with the poor infrastructure. The Chinese government has made agreement with the Tanzanian government to build roads and bridges to reach out sites and mines where Chinese firms are having operations. The Chinese government assigned 5 state-owned construction companies to the mining sites. Most of these companies have been receiving offers and financial incentives from the government to carry out quality construction work for the Tanzania government and other Eastern Africa countries. Furthermore, Barking in China are willing and ready to support Chinese companies if we identify new business and new investment opportunities in Tanzania.
We can see that the image showcases the Western government and firms adopt a two-tier bargaining model in natural resource industry in Africa. This was proposed by Ramamurthy. As per the Western government engages in Tier 1 bargaining with the host country African government. The Western government provides official development assistance like on conditions on political reforms and governance improvement to the host country in exchange for a good FDI environment for the home country MNEs. The Western MNE further negotiates with the host country government for specific investment opportunities in Tier 2 bargaining. We call the Chinese model as modified one-tier bargaining model because it is different from the traditional one-tier bargaining model in which the home country government plays no role and the MNEs solely depend on themselves in dealing with the host country government. In this modified model, the Chinese government represents the collective interest of Chinese firms in negotiating with the host country government in Africa, and no direct negotiation exists between Chinese firms and the host country government. The Chinese government try and create a friendly FDI environment. To secure the deals in natural resource sector, the Chinese government offers a package with aid or concessional loans that support multi-purpose development projects. These projects are not just limited to natural resource sector. The Chinese firms act as a group to fulfill the Chinese government commitments to the host country government. The Chinese government, through its control of abundant financial resources and SOEs, can offer more attractive terms to the host country government than any individual Chinese company can. Hence, it has a stronger bargaining position than any Chinese company in relation to the host country government. The main question is whether this model has more general applicability so that we might expect similar bargaining models by the Chinese government and firms in other industries and in other regions. We will go through 4 quadrants in the table to understand if the model has more general applicability. The Chinese style bargaining model developed in this study is situated in quadrant 1. The Chinese firms are inclined to adopt a modified one-tier model under two conditions. First, Chinese firms invest in industries of high political risk like natural resources. The Chinese government has strong incentive to support Chinese FDI in these industries due to the strategic nature of the natural resource sector and related need to reduce political risk for Chinese firms active in that sector. In quadrant 2, we can see it's a two-tier bargaining model. Example for this is Chinese FDI in home appliance industries in Tanzania. Quadrant 3 is the traditional one-tier bargaining model. This can be explained basis the Chinese FDI in natural resources in Canada, wherein there is high political risk because of the sector it is in. The fourth quadrant is also traditional one-tier bargaining model, just that in this there is a low political risk industry, like the Chinese FDI and home appliance industry in the US. Whether governments in other emerging economies such as Brazil, India, and Russia could adopt the same bargaining model. The modified one-tier bargaining model is based on two conditions. The Chinese government has strong incentives to help Chinese companies secure natural resources because the natural resource sector is viewed as a strategic and critical to Chinese domestic growth. The Chinese government has the ability to negotiate with the host country government on behalf of Chinese firms due to its control of banks and MNEs in diverse sectors such as natural resources, construction, transportation, and manufacturing. Basis this, the Chinese government, by coordinating the activities of state-controlled MNEs, is able to offer a package with loans and multiple-purpose projects in diverse sectors, thus effectively increasing its bargaining power in relation to the host country government. Where the government in other emerging countries such as Brazil, India, and Russia could adopt the same bargaining model to help their natural resources firms invest in less developed countries depends on the extent to which the above two conditions could be satisfied. Chinese government is willing to help private natural resource companies because it wants to ensure that private firms maintain good relations between China and the host country. It also wants at least some private firms to be globally competitive. Additionally, we can also assume that the natural resource sector is so critical to the Chinese government that it is willing to assist its private firms in their international activities if they can contribute to China's access to resources. We conclude that the modified one-tier bargaining model, though restricted in its general applicability, has been successful model in Tanzania and possibly other rich nations in Africa might also continue to be successful. Thank you.
Hi, I will be explaining the Canadian perspective for using two-tier model with respect to African countries. Now it is important to know that Canada represents a leading player internationally and Canadian companies are at the forefront of exploration and mining activities in Africa. Canadian companies almost represent three-fourths of mining companies in all of the global world. In 2003, the larger company mineral exploration market in Africa was valued at 448 million, or more than 18% of 2.4 billion larger company market world. First, I will be discussing the general outlook of Canada's investment in African countries. Now, the policy statement in respect to 2002 goals were that Canada was to invest in five different African countries, of which three of them were very rich in minerals. These countries included Ghana, Mali, and Tanzania. Similarly, in the April 2005 reform, it was announced that of the 25 countries selected as Canada's development partners, 14 of these countries were African. Now, these countries include such as Ethiopia, Madagascar, among several others. What happens is that Canada make investments, for instance, in Ethiopia. Elena Potash plans to make 642 million in capital expenditures for 4 projects in Ethiopia's northeast region. Similarly, if we discuss Madagascar, Sharit International's open pit mine located 80 km east of Antananarivo became fully operational in 2012. It has an annual design capacity of 60,000 tons of nickel. It also has a projected lifespan of 27 years. Now, Canada is an active partner in key organizations who share the common interests in African region. So these are different institutions, for instance, African Development Bank, African Union, World Food Programme, UNICEF, among several others. Now, Canada partners up with these organizations in order to invest in these countries to extract minerals. Moving on, I will be specifically discussing the case of Mali because it is interesting to note over here that Mali has a lot of potential in terms of minerals. Hence, Canada's government has been investing a lot into Mali through several programs that I will be discussing later on through the slides. Now, Canada has provided over 1.6 billion in international assistance to Mali, including 139.93 million in 2018 to 2019. In 2018, bilateral merchandise trade reached 23.1 million, including 20.9 million exports and 2.2 million in imports. What's important to note over here is that Canada gained more than it lost. While I am on this issue, it is also important to note that Mali is a country that offers opportunities to Canadian companies in different sectors, including mining, energy, agriculture, infrastructure, clean technologies, and education. Now, Canada also supports Mali's peace and reconciliation process through a range of activities that seek to improve security and stability in the region. In this regard, Canada has provided even military support in Mali for many years, most recently through the United Nations Multidimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in Mali, providing 230-260 troops along with equipment in 2018 to 2019. Now, Canada uses different ways to ensure that the region is stable. Either the Canadian government does that for humanitarian purposes or to help the companies that have already invested. That's still arguable. Moving on to the Canadian company's involvement in Mali. So the company named Endeavour Mining Operation is in Western Mali. Although it is politically unstable, but still the company's Tabakutu mine produced 110,000 of gold in 2012 and estimates production to grow to 135,000 to 150,000 in 2013. Now the company also said that it has moved to a definitive feasibility stage for its Fetekaro and Kalana gold projects after reporting pro-feasibility studies for both of these mines. Moving on, there are more companies than this that are involved in this project. One of the biggest name is B2 Gold. The B2 Gold mine is one of the largest in Mali, representing an investment of over 600 million. Now, this Vancouver-based company is not only boosting output at its flagship Fekola mine, but it is also examining other opportunities both in Mali and across the entire region. The second company, Robex Resources, also opened gold mines in Mali in 2017 and 2018. Robex Resources is basically listed in the stock exchange and they explore properties in Mali and an operating mine as well. The group has strong business model which demonstrated great results with Nampala mine. With this experience, Robex is now striving to grow in West Africa as well by acquiring or developing new mines. Now, coming towards the end of the presentation, so it is important to note that the model that China uses and Canada uses is a bit different. So the first difference is that China has more direct connection involvement as compared to Canada when it comes to the from the support of the government. So the China's two-tier model is that the state-owned enterprises that are directly owned by mostly Chinese government. They combine and collaborate with Chinese government to make investments of infrastructure in the host country in order to explore natural resources. However, what Canada does is that it not only invests in infrastructure and development projects, but it also provides humanitarian aid. It also provides, for instance, for education to increase the literacy rate, amongst several other things, and even sometimes military aid as well, so that the region is politically stable. So, if we discuss the two-tier model, it is actually that the government is also involved as well as with the multinational that wants to invest. So, Canadian government is a little bit indirectly involved. However, China is directly involved while using the two-tier model. Now, as I was already saying, the way of providing aid sometimes also varies. China directly provides infrastructure and loans. However, the Canadian model of providing aid is a bit different. It can be it can be it can be deduced through different examples that Canada is more interested in the betterment of the region that it invests as well. But it is also important to note at the end that the Canadian companies have a lot of investment in these countries. So indirectly, the government helps them to achieve the results and work for the betterment of their economy in the end. With that, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you so much.